To the association, in his new book, Inside the NBA Bubble, a championship season under quarantine, Lakers' Jared Dudley revealed his team was primed for the battle for LA because of Paul George saying, quote, "We hear some of the guys talking about how they're the team to beat in LA. It's fine if Kawhi Leonard says stuff like that. He's defending a championship. But we think it's disrespectful for Paul George, who hasn't won, to put himself on the level of LeBron James and Anthony Davis. This kind of stuff motivates us." Last night, Paul George with the kill him with kindness approach.
God bless him. God bless you, Jared Dudley. I don't know what it is. Dudes love throwing my name and stuff, but God bless you, Jared.
Stephen A., do you believe Dudley?
No, I'm at all. He's a really good guy, really smart guy. And I'm not trying to throw any shade on him, but I don't believe him. And I say that respectfully because I definitely believe it was more about Kawhi Leonard. Let me say this. Paul George is averaging 27 against the Lakers. He did average 26 last year against the Lakers. Paul George is an all-star caliber player. He is not a scrub. And he happens to be one of the nicest people you'd ever meet, to be quite honest with you. Incredibly respectful. He's a professional. He's a good dude. He might have had differences with certain players like a Montrezl Harrell or somebody, but Paul George is a good guy. Let's be very, very clear about that. He's not one of those guys that's an a-hole and he motivates you to really, really come at him night and day because of your disdain for him. You run across the NBA, you don't find guys that feel that way about Paul George. Now, they might feel something along the lines like Kawhi's a champion and you're not, but it's not like they look at Paul George like he's some scrub and you know what, let's go and give it to him because it ain't gonna be that easy. The brother can play. But the reason I bring up Kawhi is because, once again, we've got yet another person that's trying to downplay or shove aside the significance of what Kawhi Leonard did coming to Los Angeles. And I'm sick and tired of it. Kawhi Leonard is a superstar caliber player, one of the top 5 players in the game, incredibly respected and feared to some degree because he's such an elite defender when he really focuses on it. We know what Kawhi Leonard could do. Let's focus on what he did. He won the championship in Toronto, signed on with New Balance, even before that actually. Come to LA, got the commercial for New Balance, driving the convertible down the highway in LA, and the king's crown dangling from his mirror and all of this other stuff. He was coming for LeBron because LeBron wasn't a champion. He was. And he was like, I'm the reigning defending champion now, and I'm coming to your town. And by the way, I'm not coming to you. I'm coming to come at you, as Max Kellerman has so astutely highlighted in the past. That's what Kawhi Leonard was doing. And if you LeBron James, you knew everybody and their mama was waiting for that confrontation. Yes, Lakers, Clippers. Yes, Paul George with Kawhi against Anthony Davis and LeBron. But they were waiting for LeBron versus Kawhi. And anybody who tries to deny that, I ain't even trying to listen to them. I'm not even trying to listen to them because everybody was waiting for that confrontation. And that's why we still ticked off that the Clippers didn't come through.
You are so passionate. You talk about this with such fervor about Kawhi. It's such a pet issue of yours that it is clouding your judgment here. If you want to make this about Kawhi, go ahead. He did everything you said he did. He went to go at LeBron, and he failed to even get to that game, even to the Western Conference Finals. And he failed because he choked in Game 7 and choked in the second half and choked in the fourth quarter. And you know I thought he was going to win the whole thing. But up until then, Kawhi was magnificent in the playoffs, as he had been the year before. Kawhi plays the regular season at near MVP levels, right? Like maybe a little quarter step behind the very best. And then when it matters most, he's as good as anybody or better. Paul George is not an MVP caliber player, and we all know it. He's not quite at that level. He's not a 5-star. He's a 4.5-star player. And those guys, if they're going to be Robin to Kawhi's Batman, if a guy like that is going to be the main support to a superstar, or if, better yet, if he's supposed to be the other superstar, and he's not quite an MVP, if anything, he's got to elevate when it matters most, or at least stay his same self. Stephen A., Paul George, a really nice guy. I've interviewed him a couple times, and I know people who know him. Really nice guy, a good dude. But we keep hearing the same thing. Was it resentment toward Kawhi for the special treatment? What keeps coming back to me is what people resented was Paul George was given that same special treatment, and they felt he in particular did not have that status. And what we're hearing from Jared Dudley now is echoes of that. Stephen A., maybe even if Paul George did elevate, they don't get it done, but at least they got a shot. Last year was not on Kawhi. He deserves the attention, you're right, because he did aim at the king, and he missed. But Paul George didn't hold his end of the bargain. Kawhi, throughout the playoffs, was great. Paul George wasn't, and people noticed it.
Paul George wasn't showing up in the playoffs in the first round. By the second round against Denver, he had some pretty damn good games himself. That's number one. Number two, It wasn't on him to show up as much as it was on Kawhi. That's number two. Number three, again, when I bring up Kawhi Leonard, let me put it to you this way in a better context that I've never put it in before, Max Kellerman. If the Lakers get bounced out by Portland, if they get bounced out by whomever, and there's someone else waiting for the Clippers, if the Clippers were to advance to the conference finals, would we have cared as much? Hell no. It mattered because the Lakers and the Clippers appeared to be on a collision course, and the Clippers wet the bed and didn't hold up their end of the bargain. And with that being Kawhi Leonard at the forefront of that, I don't want to hear anything about Paul George. Looking at Kawhi.
All right, let's leave it there. Guys, I mentioned this earlier in the week.
Top team in the West, top team in the East.
Finals preview.
It's the Lakers and the Sixers. Lakers have won all their road games, and as they meet on the floor, Joel Embiid honoring Kobe and Gigi Bryant with some custom shoes before the game. A moment of silence for Kobe, of course, Philly native. Marc Gasol guarded Embiid tougher than any other defender in Embiid's career. Embiid takes it right at Gasol. A couple of possessions later, Embiid, who averages just about 11 a game going head-to-head against Gasol, had 13 in the quarter, and the Sixers led by double digits after the first 12 minutes, 10-point lead. LeBron James coming off an enormous game against Cleveland the other night, 16 in the paint in the first half, tied for his most in any half since joining the Lakers. Down the lane, through the contact, it's a joke. 9 of 13 from the floor in the first half. Third consecutive half with at least 20 points. Ties his longest streak in the last decade. He just refuses to age. Embiid here lands directly on his back, and he's down in pain. Now another look here, and you'll see LeBron will get called for the flagrant one as he shoves Embiid while he's in midair. Now, Embiid with his thoughts afterwards.
You look at it, that's a very dangerous play. And I guarantee you that if it was me, I would have popped.
It is a dangerous play. Guys in the air, you got to be very cognizant of that. Embiid stays on the floor and continues to play at a high level. Buries a three there. Sixers up 7. Danny Green looking to go for his personal three-peat with 3 different teams. One with Toronto, one with the Lakers, and now here playing for Philly, part of a triple-double for Simmons on the assist. Dennis Schroeder, a knockdown 3. Philadelphia looked like they were going to cruise to a victory. Suddenly it's down to 4, and Doc's not thrilled. LeBron drives, kicks. Contavious, Caldwell, Pope, all 3 of these. It's a 1-point game. After another stop, LeBron feeds a cutting Anthony Davis. He gets to the rim, and the Lakers have a 13-0 lead to take the lead. A 13-0 run, I should say. Tobias Harris hunting his shot, and that's gorgeous. Lakers with no timeouts. The inbound to Davis, who's sort of stumbling, and Embiid does a nice job bodying to stop the progress. Doc afterwards, not talking about his team, talking about the team they beat.
They showed at the end of the game like champions. You know, it's hard to kill them. Like, they just keep coming back. They keep believing. They kept making shots. We weathered it, but I don't know. It says that we're a good team. But for me, it says that we're really good, but we still have a lot of work still.
Lakers turned a 12-point deficit into a 1-point lead in that final 3 minutes. Tobias Harris made the go-ahead jumper, something I'm going to talk to Tim Legler about here in just a moment. Philly hadn't scored a single point during that span, and that bucket propels the Sixers to a 10.
Favorite in some sports books. LeBron has played every single game, averaging 25.2, 7.9 rebounds, and 7.4 assists. Big Perk joining the show. And Perk, I actually want to start with you on this one for a change. Tell me this, how should we feel about LeBron being pegged as the MVP favorite?
I mean, it's appropriate. Just look at what he's doing. Forget the fact, Molly, that, you know, it was a short turnaround for us, the offseason that he played and won the championship, didn't have time to give his body rest, and haven't took a single game off at the age of 36 years old in year 18 with a million minutes on his body. Forget all that. The fact of the matter is, and no disrespect to Joel Embiid, because he's playing at level. No disrespect to Big Joker, Big Jokic down there in Denver, because he's playing at the MVP level. No disrespect to Luka and Paul George and Kevin Durant. But right now, what happened was we got caught up in as being prisoners of the moment, include myself. And guess what? We could thank Jason Hillman in the front office of the Cleveland Cavaliers for waking us up again, because he poked the bear the other night, and LeBron James had to give us a friendly reminder of who the hell he was and what type of season he's having. Here it is, this man is averaging 25 points a game, almost 8 rebounds, almost 7.5 assists. And guess what? They have the best record in the NBA, the number one defense in the NBA. And by the way, guess who's the number one defender and guarding their opponent? LeBron James. So he's delivering on both sides of the floor. And Molly, Steven, Max, this is what I was saying last year when we was debating about him and Giannis. We get caught up, especially you, Max, we get caught up in those analytics. We get caught up in PR and all that stuff that don't even matter. And we determine who our MVP is instead of sitting in front of the television, keeping a cool booty, and watching the game with our eyes and watching who has the effect on the game. And looking at what I saw the other night and what he did against the Cleveland Cavaliers, this goes to show me the separation between him and a guy like Giannis. While Giannis is standing in the corner in the fourth quarter, watching Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday take over the game when it's a possession by possession, LeBron James is saying things like, get the hell out the way and let me go for 21 in the fourth and carry us to victory. So with that being said, let me apologize to LeBron James for not even recognizing him and taking him for granted like we have done over the past 2 decades when he should have been winning MVPs multiple years. But at the end of the day, he should be a favorite in a lot of